$1,279,000, and that's basically Proposition 2.5 for new growth. State aid, we had a meeting with Senator Tara, financial advisory, a financial planning team, and we asked the question, what can we expect next year? And he was reluctant to give a number, but suggested that in a worst-case scenario, we could be down 5%. Local receipts, we're projecting, because of motor vehicle excise tax and building permits, compared to 2009, a decrease of $234,000. So the total revenue that we have to operate is only $609,000. And our fixed cost, that's the amount of money we take first, is health insurance, and the big numbers in the fixed cost are health insurance is 8%, county retirement is 10%, and retirements, and this has got to do with our employees. This is not the retirement benefit from Middlesex County. This is retirement benefits that our employees that retire get, sick leave buyback, longevity pay, etc., things like that. The fixed cost, if the health insurance is 8%, county retirement isn't going to change. That number is, there's not much we can do with it, is $669,000. And if you look at the total revenue increase, that means basically there's nothing left for increases in funding the school or general government. The school budget, we're projecting at a 6% increase, which is $1,342,000, and the general government budget is $349,811. It's projected at 3%. That basically provides level services. So the operating budget increase is $2,362,449. The budget deficit is sitting around $1.7 million as we stand here today. So general government cost-saving actions associated with dealing with this: employee health insurance, current negotiating with employee unions to join the GIC. We're also working with Maya, who's a current insurance provider, to come up with more affordable plans. We have employee contracts that contain some lucrative buybacks upon retirement. We have a 15% on the town side longevity benefit. All of these things are extra additional costs that are preventing us from providing the levels of services that, in fact, we need. Reduce the expense of town-funded police details. We spent about $100,000 last year in police details. We talked about flagmen, etc. Some of those details are absolutely necessary. They have to be paid from the point of view of things. Others are construction work on side roads where it's questionable whether or not a detail is required. We need to work harder at that issue. We have fairly substantial police and fire overtime budgets that we need to look at. And snow and ice, we have probably some of the better and safer roads in the wintertime, and that's the result of the efforts of DPW getting out early, putting material on the roads in advance. But when we have a snow and ice deficit of $375,000 last year, I'm sorry, $325,000 last year, it's very, very difficult to justify what we're doing. And we're going to have to take a look at that too. School cost savings, and I'm sure the school department is going to be talking in more detail about this, but in the general categories: immediate budget freeze, energy savings, a third reduction in paper use, freeze on the purchase of consumables, substitute in classroom coverage, building use of maintenance, and vacancies and hires. Just in the form of closing the gap of $1.7 million, if you just take a look at some numbers here, just to give you an idea of where things go. A state aid reduction of 5% is $435,000. And that's currently in the $1.75 million budget plan. Last year, we got 10% increase in state aid, and nowhere do I think we're going to get any increase this year. But that was $871,000. So if you look at the 871 plus the 453, that's close to $1.3 million, which would mean that the gap, if we were following what we got last year, the gap would be, it would be dealing with is only, $300,000 or so. It's in reach. 0%, basically would mean that we'd recover $435,000 off of the, excuse me, off of the 1.7. Then if you look at the other side of things on cost, 8% increase in health insurance is $379,000. Now 8% may not be the final number. Last year, as you recall, we ended up with a 2.5% increase. Retirements, and this number is not really known. This is the average number over the past 4 or 5 years. We don't know what employees are going to commit to retirement until, I think, the beginning of February for the school department. Is that correct? And Townside is probably around the same time. And then, snow and ice deficit, $371,000. By the way, the deficit, the total cost of snow and ice was $250,000 plus the $371. Okay, so it's over $500,000 spent on snow and ice. How can you help? Contact your state legislators and governor. Let them hear your concerns regarding reductions in state aid, local mandates, building construction, prevailing wage, GIC rules. I have been meeting with selectmen from 6 surrounding communities, and we had a meeting with Secretary of Administration and Finance this week in Boston, Secretary Kerwin, and we presented some of these issues associated with, our hands are tied. State mandates prevent us from saving money. The selectman from North Andover had an interesting example. They had a group, private group, that wanted to build something in town for the town, and the project was budgeted somewhere around $3 million, and because of the prevailing wage, and it was being forced on them, even though the private group was paying for this, another $1 million. So these are the kinds of things that, from state law point of view, cost money. I'll give you an example here locally. It's a thorn in my side. We need to put new windows, probably in some of the schools, but at Town Hall, which is an elementary school, lots of glass, single pane, right? And I think the estimates were $500,000, which seems to be outrageous, right? And it's got to do with the state requirements to hire a project manager and architect for projects this size, right? When you can get a window contractor to come in and replace the windows. Even if you were paying the window contractors help prevailing wage, it would be less money. The law, does not work in our favor. Contact Mike Prisco. I think he is here today. Mike, raise your hand. He's the chairman of the Fiscal Advisory Committee with your cost-saving ideas. We certainly can use them. Report any observed waste to your local officials. Let your voice be heard at budget hearings and town meetings. I'll just give you an idea of, when I talk about health insurance, I'm focusing on it. From 2004, fiscal 2004 to fiscal 2009, our health insurance costs went up 60%. Significant amount of money. And that was including last year at 2.5%. And the only reason why we got 2.5% last year was that when the GIC was announced, the insurance companies got a little aggressive competition associated with trying to keep some of their clients. And 2.5% is kind of an auspicious number. With respect to GIC, just so you know, this is a list of the employee unions and the percentage of the vote. In other words, right now, we have to attain a 70% agreement amongst representatives of these unions in a group. And the weight of that vote is distributed there. The teachers union, I don't want to sound like I'm picking on them, but they actually control the vote because they have 45% means if they don't agree, then under the 70% rule, GIC doesn't get approved. And we need GIC, or we need some form of reduction in benefits, mostly in the copay area, to lower our insurance rates and provide additional funds for our operating budgets. And with that, I'll conclude the presentation and open it to, we want to make the school presentation first and then open up the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Masseri. In Mr. Masseri's presentation, he alluded to some some budget changes that the school department was contemplating because of